Good morning, and good to have a chance to be with you again. Wanted to continue this series of teachings on developing a good heart, and this time with um, uh, a, s- a talk on what's called the Bodhisattva's way of life. And I introduced this on Tuesday a little bit, but the idea is really if we have a good heart, if we've developed a good heart, how do we carry that out into our daily life? And I should qualify that there are, of course, many levels. We had this series of 5 weeks of classes on developing a good heart, introducing these different levels of developing love and compassion and empathy for others and so forth. But the culmination of that sequence of 5 classes was with um, looking at a mind called bodhicitta, and it's we use a Sanskrit term to describe that mind just because the term love doesn't exactly quite fit, the term compassion doesn't exactly quite fit. You end up with a concept that is important but that there's no English word for. So we call it bodhicitta. And citta literally means consciousness, and bodhi means awakening, but it is a consciousness or a mind that is determined to awaken fully for the purpose of benefiting others. And it is the equivalent of a mind that sincerely wants to improve ourselves to the utmost for the benefit of others. And that is not that's similar in character to the idea, of a parent who wants to get a job that makes more money so that they can give a better life to their children. It's a little bit similar to that, right? Or um, you know, where you need to increase your strength so you can, or get healthy or something, so you can look after your family or something like that. So, motivated by love, a wish to improve ourselves, or in particular, motivated by compassion, a wish to improve ourselves. But of all the different improvements we could make for ourselves, we could lose a little weight, we could gain a little muscle, we could read a book, we could learn a new language, a lot of improvements. What's the main improvement we need to make? It is awakening, this term bodhi. Is it? Is awakening the main improvement that we could make? What are we awakening from? Are we actually asleep? What does that mean? Of course, a big topic, but the fundamental idea is just like when you are asleep um, in a dream, right? The world of your dreams appears to be totally outside of you. It appears in your dreams that you're dreaming, that you're experiencing the world, and that in your dream, generally, it feels like you have no power over that world. You're in a world where good things are happening or bad things are happening and so forth, but it's totally outside of your control. But is it? It's your dream. Where's it coming from, right? It's not coming from outside. It's coming from inside, right? So that the world that you're experiencing when you're dreaming it's like a reflection of your mind. It's a manifestation of your mind. In theory, you have power to make that dream better. Why couldn't you, right? We're in a similar experience where we feel while we're awake now in our normal waking life that we're in a certain world and the world just is. And it's either a good world that you don't really have much control over, or it's a bad world that you don't have much control over, or it's an unfair world, whatever, but still not really realizing to what degree our mind is creating the world that we're living in. So in a sense, we are asleep. And in our sleep, there is an experience of powerlessness because our mind is just not strong enough or wise enough or clear enough to really see through that dream and realize the degree to which we do have um, power and freedom and control and the ability to change our own responses and experiences. And we're basically living that out constantly in our daily life. And so we go through our life feeling that we're just buffeted around by, oh, my job went great, my job went poorly, these people are kind to me, these people are unkind to me, I lost something that I enjoyed. And all of it feels like it's something that's happening to us, that there is just no power, so to speak, no control over our own experiences because it feels like it's coming from outside. And so awakening is I there's many different ways you could explain it, but one way is it is waking up to the reality that this world we're living in reflects the mind with which we're meeting it. Um, and that if we change our mind, the world changes. If we bring our mind under control, you can bring your world under control. And you may not admit to wanting to bring your world under control, but if I were to say, if you had the power to make bad things not happen to you and ensure good things happened to you and that you didn't lose any of the things you enjoyed, would you take that? Yes, you would. Of course you would, because that's what we do. And that's what we spend our whole life trying to do is make sure bad things don't happen and good things do happen and we don't lose the things we enjoy. Um, and that is to say that we want control over our life. But to do that, we need control over our mind. Not just for our own sake, though, and that's where bodhicitta comes in. It's like if you can get control over your own mind, then you can help others to get control over their minds as well. Um, and if you can get control over your own fears, then you can help others to dispel their fears. If you can make yourself happy, you then have the power to help make others happy. And that's bodhicitta. So if you develop that kind of a good heart, how do you live your life? That's the Bodhisattva's way of life. That's the topic that we'll talk about today. So, why don't we spend a few minutes in meditation? I didn't end up having much time for meditation on Tuesday because I talked a lot. So, I'm going to reverse the situation. We'll do some meditation up front, and then I'll have to talk less. so, so, our meditation, um, um, meditation is not just to relax. It is to begin to become aware of the mind and to be able to get control over our own mind. And I won't explain that at any length, but we'll do a simple breathing meditation and then a simple meditation on loving kindness, as we often do. So we can close our eyes. You can find a comfortable position. I recommend sitting up straight if you can. Helps keep your mind very clear and alert and awake. Take a deep breath in and out. And then another breath, and just invite ourselves to relax. Then another breath, just asking ourselves what is important right now. And then we can bring our attention to our breathing. And in particular, we can become aware of the feeling of breath at the very tips of our nostrils. Try to become aware when we're breathing in, aware when we're breathing out, aware if we're breathing in a long breath, or breathing out a long breath, aware of breathing in a short breath, breathing out a short breath, and aware of the whole motion of breathing in and out. And we can focus on this in silence for a little bit. And then we can begin to develop a good heart by bringing to mind the people in your life, people in your social circles, imagining that you are in a peaceful, beautiful, uplifting environment, and that around you are all the people who've influenced you, your parents, friends, family, co-workers, teachers. But instead of imagining them just ordinarily, we imagine that they're all happy, virtuous, peaceful, and delighted to be engaging in meditation alongside us. And we can just contemplate these people are exactly the same as me. They want to be happy. They want to be free from suffering. If my happiness is important, so is theirs. If my freedom is important, so is theirs. If I am important, so are they. And we just hold this belief as strongly as we can. With this good motivation, we can open our eyes and arise from our meditation. Okay. Um, so, having given some preliminary explanation of this good heart of bodhicitta, the mind that is wishing to awaken for the sake of others, then here now we'll explain the bodhisattva's way of life. Again, we've used a Sanskrit word. Bodhi again means awakening. Sattva just means person, a person who's focused on awakening, dedicated their life to this. Bodhisattva's way of life, what do? All of the practices of carrying out this good motivation in our daily life can be divided into six. And these six are known as the six perfections, and they are the perfection of giving, the perfection of moral discipline, the perfection of patience, the perfection of joyful effort, the perfection of concentration or meditation, mental stabilization, and then the perfection of wisdom is the sixth. From a practical point of view, all of the daily activities that we might need to engage in to achieve this awakened state for for the benefit of others are included in these six. So these six, in fact, are a comprehensive a comprehensive way of categorizing all spiritual practices. So they're very important. In fact, if you dig back sometime through the YouTube archive, I gave another series of 6 classes on these 6 perfections. So giving, moral discipline, patience, joyful effort, concentration, and wisdom. Um, So I'll explain these briefly. Next week, we'll go into more detail on the perfection of concentration. And then the week after, we'll go into more detail on the perfection of wisdom, both of which are deeper and more profound topics. So this class will focus more on these first 4, giving, moral discipline, patience, and effort. And if you're interested, I explain some things on Tuesday that complement this, and I won't have a chance to go into in too much detail. So let me just dive into these. Giving, moral discipline, and effort are things that we can, in particular, practice throughout our life. The perfections of concentration is something, of course, you can practice throughout your life. You can always be concentrating. In particular, somebody's talking, you can be paying attention. It's a little bit of a plug here to pay attention during this class, but in fact, that is also true anytime you're in a conversation. It takes concentration, it takes focus. Anytime you're doing work, anytime you're walking, anytime you're driving, right? How often do you need concentration? A lot, right? Most activities benefit from concentration, um, but especially meditation. It's a pure training in concentration. And then the perfection of wisdom is something you can also be practicing during meditation or when you're listening to teachings like this one, for example. But when you're not meditating and you're not listening to teachings or contemplating teachings or meditating on them, well, how much of your life is that? Well, most of it. Whatever, 99, 98, 95, 90% of your life is the rest of it. What do you do then? Giving, moral discipline, patience, and effort. So the practice of giving is, as I mentioned on Tuesday, a way of strengthening and enriching our own mind. Giving has 2 aspects, of course. There's and I use this Newton's second law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So when we practice giving, of course, there's some benefit to whoever we're giving. If there's no benefit to the person we're giving, you might not have practiced your giving very skillfully. So you need to try to give in such a way that it actually benefits others. That's giving. But something special happens when you're practicing giving. And in fact, something special happens when you're practicing any of these practices. You don't just impact the other person, you change yourself. You change your own mind. And that's what we're talking about when we think about these practices as a way of improving ourself. And in that sense, they are like working out, or they are like learning. They're a way of changing this person that we think we are. So when you're practicing giving, what you're doing is you're changing yourself. Among other things, you're changing yourself from a person who has nothing to give to a person who has something to give. So if I say right now, or not right now, as soon as this class finishes, go and find something to give someone. Could be an animal. Go out and give a bit of crumbs of food to an animal. Give a kind word to someone that you live with or near. Give advice, help, something. Go practice giving. Well, you have to actually find a way to give. You have to find somebody to give to, right? And you have to find something that you can give. So you actually, in that process of figuring out what to give and how to give, you are actually changing yourself. You're changing yourself from a person who has nothing to give or can't give or doesn't have an opportunity to give, and you're changing yourself into someone who does have something to give, an opportunity to give, a motivation to give. And so that's what we mean when we say giving is an act of self-transformation as much as it is an outer act. There's 4 kinds of giving. Giving material things, again, could be super simple. There's a story that I like to think about my main teacher. He was living in this big meditation center in England, and a group of people had come to visit, and he didn't expect them, but all of a sudden he was in this room, and then 20 people came in on a tour of this big meditation center. And so he immediately was looking around for something to give, and he saw a bundle of pencils wrapped in a rubber band just on a table someplace. And so he quickly went and got the bundle of pencils and went and gave each of these people a pencil. So, okay, so you went to a meditation center, you had a tour, you met the monk who's the founder of it all, and he gave you a pencil. Why did he give you a pencil? Because that was the only thing he had. He wanted to give you something. He wanted to give a gift. He was practicing this very simple act of giving. And in doing that, he made a connection with people. And okay, so you got a pencil. Did you need a pencil? I don't know. But you made a connection in that experience. There was an interaction. You're giving material things, giving something. It's an opportunity to give. So you have the opportunity to give something. You can be, let me plug my computer in here. Sorry. You have the opportunity to give something. If you're not sure what that is, you can be one of those people who goes to the park and feeds pigeons. The pigeons will always accept. If you can get them some seeds or some bread or something, the pigeons will be very happy to accept. You can give something, right? It doesn't matter what it is. But every time you give, you're making a connection with other people. And also you're changing yourself. You're changing yourself into a person who has something to give. And that's not important just in the sense of like making yourself feel self-important. It's quite the opposite. It's important in the sense of feeling that you're giving back. And if you go back a few classes, we talked about affectionate love and developing a sense of gratitude about how much we have. You can think our entire life is this arc of accumulating stuff and skills and friends and knowledge and experiences and so forth, and then an arc of losing it all gradually. We're born in this world with nothing. We leave this world with nothing. In between, we have stuff. Things and skills and ideas and friends and knowledge and so forth. But none of it is ours, really. We don't actually own anything. It's just temporarily in our possession, on its way to someone else or on its way back out of existence. While you have something, practice giving away consciously, intentionally, before death comes and forcibly deprives you of everything that you might otherwise have had to give away. So our life needs to be a grand act of giving, right? That is what you were born to do. You were born to give back, not to take, right? Everybody takes. That's normally what we do. We do the opposite of giving. There's the normal motion. I want this. I want more. I want this. Taking experiences, knowledge, friends, stuff. We need some stuff. We need some friends, knowledge, skills, and so forth. That's not what makes our life meaningful. What makes our life meaningful is giving back with a beneficial intention, becoming a benefactor, even if it's just to pigeons in the park. Those pigeons will be really, really glad you did that. So giving material things, giving wise advice. Typically we say dharma, but giving wise advice when people ask for it and not at any other time. Like if you know for sure that they really are receptive. Traditionally, the rule was somebody has to ask you 3 times to give them teachings. If they haven't asked you 3 times, you should be suspicious whether they're actually interested in your wise advice. But if you really have wise advice that you can offer to help people, it's the most powerful thing, most beneficial thing people can get, is because that's what we need. We need wisdom. Giving material things, giving dharma, giving fearlessness, dispelling others' worries, dispelling others' fears. We're fundamentally all controlled by fears, so many fears, infinite fears. If you can do anything to assuage people's fears, that's a great act of generosity. And the fourth is giving love, giving, making people happy, giving your attention, your care, your kindness, and so forth. It's free, right? It's free. You don't even have to be in the park. You don't even have to be around pigeons to give love. You can just think of your parents, think of your friends, think of people you've met, and just develop a mind of love. Is that going to affect them? Not directly, necessarily, I don't think. Um, is that going to affect you? It definitely will affect you. So giving is an internal transformation as well as a way of benefiting others. Um, yeah, hope that you really need to capture that and internalize that. If you're not around anybody else, you can still remember them. If you have nothing physically you can think you can give, you can still give love. Is that going to change them? Not necessarily. Is that going to change you? Absolutely, it will. Giving, moral discipline. We live in community with others. Somehow, somewhere. Your job is actually just a community. Your friends are actually just a community. The people you live with, the society you're part of, all of these things, they are communities. Your online, your social media connections, these are communities. We live in community whether we know it or not, whether we like it or not. The core rule in a community is not to harm others within that community. Now, why do rules exist? Rules exist as a reminder of that is important, because if we forget that, we damage this community, right? It's moral discipline means having a discipline of mind that is an ethical discipline, a sense of ethics. And the fundamental ethics is not to harm others. The second ethic is to try to benefit them. First, do no harm, like the Hippocratic Oath. Second, try to benefit as much as possible. The third ethic, improve yourself. Now, if you think back about 5 or 10 minutes, you realize, that's what we were talking about this whole time. This whole class is about that ethic of improving yourself. And in fact, especially when we talk about giving, that's also the ethic of benefiting others. And so all of these are kind of circular, but what this means is that there is in fact a discipline of not harming others, a discipline of benefiting others, a discipline of improving yourself. Now, what is discipline? Why do we use this term discipline? Discipline means that there is mental strength required. What does mental strength mean? It means the strength to consciously carry out an action or a series of actions, or the strength to consciously refrain from actions or a series of actions, whether you feel like it or not. That's discipline, right? Anybody can act however they feel like. It doesn't require discipline. You do something, you don't do something, you hurt somebody, you don't hurt them, you help them, whatever you feel like. I feel like hurting you, I can hurt you. I feel like helping you, maybe I'll help you, Normally our behavior is 100% controlled by how we're feeling. I want something from you, I'll praise you to try to get something, right? But if you displease me, I'll criticize you, right? To teach you never to displease me again or whatever. And we've been doing that since we were little babies. Your parents do something you like, you smile. They do something you don't like, you scream, right? Babies learn to control others entirely, but babies are in fact totally controlled by their feelings, and they have little or no self-control. Discipline is growing up. Discipline is being an adult. Discipline is being a real human being, not a baby, not an animal, not a Discipline is being a real human being and consciously choosing, I am not going to harm others. I'm not going to speak in ways that hurt others. I'm not going to act in ways that hurt others. And to the very best of my ability, I'm not even going to think hurtful thoughts to others. That is discipline. And it takes strength because sometimes that's not how you feel. Like somebody annoys you, you feel like, but you refrain, right? And you also consciously try to benefit them and you consciously try to improve yourself. And that all requires strength. How much strength do you have? Depends on how much you've been practicing discipline in the past. But just exactly like exercising, the more you do it, the stronger you become. The more you practice moral discipline, the stronger your discipline becomes. You think, oh, I have no willpower. Well, how much do you exercise your willpower? Do you have a little bit of willpower? So then exercise that little bit of willpower. It's like if somebody whose muscles have atrophied and so forth goes to the gym, they have almost no strength, right? They can't lift any weights. They just can lift the bar. They can barely lift the bar. But okay, lift the bar, right? And then maybe put a little weight on and then but keep doing it. And that is the most important thing we can do through our life, is just building this discipline, this strength of mind to carry out this good endeavor. And the third practice, patience. Patience, the definition of patience, a mind that happily accepts any difficult condition, having given up the thought that things should be other than as they are. That's such a good definition. I memorized that way early on. A mind that happily accepts any difficult condition, having given up the thought that things should be other than as they are. Happy acceptance of difficult conditions, having given up the thought that things should be other than as they are. So should things be other than as they are? Well, would I like things to be other than as they are? Yeah. How many things are there that I would like to be other than as they are? Any wars you'd like to stop? Yeah. Any sicknesses you'd like to end? Yeah. Any injustices you'd like to end? Yeah. Anything in your life that sucks that you really wish wasn't that way? Yeah. You got a list of complaints? Yeah. Everybody's got a list of complaints. Huge, long, endless list of complaints. Do we think things shouldn't be that way? Yeah. We're living in a fantasy world. Whether you like it or not, things are that way for some reason. We don't want them to continue to be that way. We want to make everything better. But the only way you can make things better is by acknowledging the way things are and trying to understand why they've ended up that way, so that we can begin to change the conditions that led to those situations to reduce the likelihood that that'll happen again in the future. And that takes patience. And patience literally means, so if you encounter something that you don't like, what is the effect on your emotional state? Does it make you unhappy? Understandable, like there's all kinds of things that are unpleasant, right? But what happens when we become unhappy? We become angry, we become jealous, we become frustrated, we become depressed, right? We become anxious. So this whole list of negative emotional reactions, right? Depression, anxiety, anger, jealousy, divisiveness, whatever. They're all just a reaction to all the things we don't like. The stuff in your world that you don't like, they make you unhappy. You feel you have no power over it. You feel there's nothing you can do other than become unhappy. And I often think about when I was a little kid and my parents would make us do something we didn't want to do, and make me go somewhere I didn't want to go. How did I react? I just became unhappy. And I'd sit in the back of the car just being miserable. And my parents would say to me, "You're welcome to be miserable. It's not going to change the situation. And the only person you're hurting is yourself. And that was extraordinarily wise advice from my parents. I'm not sure where they got that, but I'm so glad that they did, because at some point I thought, actually, you know what? You're right. I am making myself miserable. But there's still, if you check, there are probably still parts of your mind that are doing the same darn thing, and it still doesn't work. It didn't work when you were a little kid. It doesn't work now. Don't make yourself miserable. Happily accept and get the energy to bring about change. If you can, get the energy to bring about change. But of course, that's hard. Bringing actual change is very hard, but it's going to require sustained energy over a long period of time. The only way to get that is patience. And then the fourth of these minds is what's called joyful effort. And typically it's just called effort, but we sometimes say joyful effort, because sometimes when you know, what is the facial expression that we associate with effort? It's like, "Arr," right? Grimacing. "Arr." Effort is a struggle, right? Um, the things that you really put effort means putting energy into something intentionally, consciously. What are the things you put energy into consciously, intentionally? The things you like. What's your facial expression look like when you're putting energy into something, putting a ton of energy? It's light. There's a joyfulness, there's a buoyancy, there's an emotional buoyancy. Um, and that is the mind of effort. And effort is just means a skillfulness in how we approach these kinds of spiritual practices. So you can give, like, okay, I'll give. I'm giving. Oh, okay, right. It's not joyful effort. There's no joyful effort in giving. Oh, practice moral discipline. Oh, I'm refraining from hurting. Saying something hurtful. I don't really want to. I'm straining. Right. There's no joyful efforts. Like the people who the people who are most fit are the people who enjoy working out, right? The people who have the strongest spiritual life are the people who have a good time practicing patience, right? Good time practicing giving, good time practicing moral discipline and meditating and studying and so forth. Okay, so very grateful to have a chance to share these instructions with you. These are life instructions. You should memorize this list of 6 and carry them out in your daily life. Um, uh, it is invaluable to study and practice these in our daily life, and so I strongly encourage you to take them to heart and to practice them in your daily life. So let's conclude just with a brief dedication, pausing, reflecting. In the last 45 minutes, our minds have changed. We have changed. We've thought things we hadn't thought before. We've applied effort to pay attention. These changes in our mind are like treading an internal path, making stronger certain habits of mind, like paying attention, listening, contemplating, practicing giving, and so forth, that eventually can become deep, automatic, instinctive, and can eventually influence others. So we just reflect briefly on the power of these actions, and then we make a decision that in the rest of our life, we try to look for every opportunity to practice giving, moral discipline, patience, effort, and then gradually concentration and wisdom. So, okay, thank you very much.